welcome to this week's episode of our podcast, Just Us Being Us. I'm your host, Adela Relentless, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I am Bugbee, and I am very sick, so bear with me.
And I am Red Rebecca, and I am an achy millennial.
I don't know what that means.
I'm still normal, but last night I was a fairy.
She was.
I was an elf.
Yeah. No, last night
I was in bed.
Yup. Last night, Red Rebecca and I actually attended the Fae Ball here in KC, and that was a blast, to say the least. I mean, I did this whole cosplay of Titania as like in this like green gown with like my massive fairy wings. It was a lot of fun. Kept smacking people with my wings, so there were like two things I would say throughout the entire night. Either, oh my gosh, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, or I am so sorry. Those were pretty much the two lines I rotated throughout the night. It was great.
Yeah. I could see that. I was actually wondering that because I was watching the reel you posted this morning, and I was like, I wonder how many people she hit with her wings.
Oh, I hit quite a number of people with my wings. It was really interesting. And trying to like maneuver around like the crowds and stuff, I would have to like turn sideways and just kind of like shimmy my way through. It was great.
Yeah, can confirm.
Yeah. I smacked Rebecca a couple times with them.
Yeah, there was one time she like leaned over and caught my back, so I was leaning over.
Oh no.
I was just like, if I'm going down, you're going down with me.
That's pretty much how it was.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though. I mean, in all honesty, it was just an amazing atmosphere, and the people were so nice, and just everybody was just like complimenting everybody the whole night, and it was just like an overall fun time and good vibes, and really more than anything a giant dance party, but it was great. Yeah. I mean, getting to dress up for the night. Yes, they are. And getting to like dress up for the night was a lot of fun. So definitely a must go to if you guys can afford to go to that. It was a pricey ticket for sure.
Yeah. A little bit too much, I think, but I mean, it was still fun.
Yeah, in all honesty, I think the price of the ticket overall was really to go towards the venue, because the venue was really cool. But I think in terms of like the price of the ticket and the amount of things that there was to do there, it was just kind of like, I don't know if it was worth the price I paid for the VIP admission. The stuff I did get in the VIP swag bag was really cool though, but yeah, I don't really know if I would pay for VIP again. I think part of it too is that since I was VIP and Rebecca was just like general admission, I couldn't really experience like the full VIP area, because like then I would have to leave her, and it wasn't really something I was interested in doing. So I think if that happens, like either everybody needs to be VIP or just general admission. Otherwise you just get like split off. So yeah, I think that was kind of like the one downside, but I did enjoy the swag bag. So really funny story about the swag bag. Bailey, I got you a present from the Fae Ball. Nice. Just so you know.
Excited.
So one of the coolest things about like the whole experience was that they had fantasy authors there that were signing their books. Well, for whatever reason, they didn't give the swag bags out right as you entered. So you wound up getting your swag bag like later on in the night, which was really weird to me. And so I obviously did not know what the contents of the swag bag were. So I went through the various like tables with the authors and bought like a couple books from each of them. And I had each of the authors sign it, obviously, to me. Right. Well, really funny thing about this, I get my swag bag later on in the night, and one of the books I had purchased actually was in my swag bag for the author to sign. So stupidly, I take it up to the author and I'm like, hey, would you mind signing this copy of this book too? And then like not even thinking about it, she was like, oh, what's your name? And I was like, she's like, what was your name again? And I was like, Adela. And she goes, okay, cool. And signs the second copy of the book to Adela. And as I'm walking away with the book in my hand, I was like, I could have just had her sign it to Bailey. I was like, because I'm just going to wind up giving her a copy of this book anyways. So, funny enough, your present is the book signed to me. So there you go.
That's fine. That's fine. What
It's
book
about
is
vampires.
it? Do I get to know?
It is called Crave, and
I
it is
have
a
it.
book about vampires.
Ooh,
I actually have it here
I
next
like
to me.
vampires.
I do too. We all know I love vampires.
Show on
No,
camera.
we're very aware.
10 episodes later, it is no secret that Adela loves vampires. There it is. Yeah, she has the copy
okay.
of it.
I've seen that cover on
Mhm.
my Amazon stuff. I recently got a Kindle, which I'm super excited about. So I can do a ton of reading, and I downloaded a ton of samples of books. So I can read the sample, and then I can buy the books if I like them. So
Yes,
I'm excited.
yes. I did also buy a Kindle as well. Really funny story about that too is that like I bought my Kindle because obviously I'm back to work travel, so I was gone for like the entire month of February, and so I do a lot of reading on the planes. And it was really funny because I have perfected the art of backpack packing, where I can pack like 3 days worth of clothes in a backpack and basically outfits and makeup and all the toiletry stuff. I literally will fit my suitcase into a backpack. And so one of the things that I was bringing with me were just like bulky books. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out a way to like reduce this for space purposes. And so what I decided on was a Kindle. And so I wound up buying mine. And then literally, I think it was like the next day, Bugby
Yeah, I
was
think
like,
so.
yeah, Bugby was like, oh, I bought a Kindle. And I was like, what? And I was like, I just bought one. And she was like, yeah, she's like, I'm sure you'll see it. I ordered it off of your Amazon account. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So like the day that her Kindle arrived at her house, I literally got the notification on my phone and like text her and was like, hey, your Kindle arrived.
Yeah. And I was like, I know, I already got it. Because I work at home, so I heard them at the door, so I just went down and grabbed it.
Yeah, it was great. And then so another really funny thing from the Fae Ball that had happened. So this one lady came up to us at the Fae Ball and she like she asked Rebecca and I if we would like friendship bracelets. So one of the things that we got from the Fae Ball just from like people passing things around was like friendship bracelets.
Mhm.
And so what was really funny is she just like held out the bag and Rebecca had picked hers first. And which one did you get again?
It was Savage Lands. People from
Right.
Savage Lands, the book that you got.
That was a book I had just bought that night. And I bought a couple prints of artwork from like the author as well and stuff for like the character artwork. And so she had pulled that one from her, like the bag. And then immediately as soon as I went in to pull mine out, I got, let's see if we could show this on camera. There you go.
Oh, sorry, is it
Valaris.
Valaris?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Valaris. And so it was so funny because as soon as I pulled it out and like read the thing, I was like, oh, hey, I got Valaris. And then all of a sudden Rebecca looks at me and she goes, oh!
I'll say my room, I decorated my room finally, and it is Valaris themed.
Yeah.
That's what I have on my sweater. The Valaris City
Yeah.
Starlight.
Yeah.
And so it was like really funny. And then as we were talking about it through the night, Rebecca was like, well, I guess it makes sense because like I got one representing your book and then you got one representing like one of my favorite books. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's kind of friendship bracelet based then. It was like, it works out. Now we just need to get one for Bailey. That's Baldur's Gate and we're all good. So, or I guess it'd be Faerun. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So it was great. I mean, it was a really, really awesome experience. But so on to podcast topic after that kind of little intro story into our lives. We do have some somewhat sad news to announce for this podcast. Red Rebecca is actually leaving us after this episode. And it's not really due to anything negative. It's just life has kind of taken, its turn and for the better in a sense. And really she just needs time to step away and kind of like get some things in order and really like prepare for some big changes, good changes that are coming up in her life. And so she will be stepping away from the podcast probably for a little bit. I mean, we haven't really thought long term about this, but obviously, when things either start to calm down or she finds herself like in a better like place to be able to come back, she will either come back like as a full-time host or even just pop in here and there as a guest host. So as much as we will miss her, we are happy and excited for the things going on in her life. And she has brought a very big aspect to this podcast in terms of, just her insight, as well as a lot of the knowledge that she shared on a lot of like mental health struggles, and really just her overall ability to make everybody laugh was such a valuable part of the show. So this show really is kind of like a goodbye, or more of a see you later, I guess I should say. Probably not make it so depressing, but it's more of a see you later for her right now, because the other half of that sad news is that this is actually the season finale for our podcast. We are going to be taking a quick roughly 3-month break from the podcast, because just as Rebecca kind of has a couple things going on, Bugby and I also have some kind of big life changes that are being made for us, that we just kind of need to step away, be able to recenter and refocus, and really just revamp things. Not to mention with Rebecca stepping out, we just all have to kind of make sure that we are able to kind of regroup and really keep the podcast going the best way that we can, with her missing and things like that. So, yeah, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca. So if she wants to say some goodbye words or whatever, I'm going to leave that to her.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a see you later. I don't know if I really want to say goodbye.
Right.
But no, I've had a great time. This podcast has, opened my eyes to some mental health struggles, and I enjoy sharing stories about my life, my struggles, and advice and insights, and I do like making people laugh. So so thank you for feeding my ego on that one.
Oh, no. Well, it's the truth. I mean, you are a wonderful person to be around, and we definitely love having you on the show. So I I am going to be sad that you're not going to be here, but at the same time, I'm happy because of all the things you've got going on, and they're all good. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, and obviously, since we're friends in real life,
Mhm.
I'm excited to kind of be part of that and getting to experience in your happiness. So it'll be great.
Well, thank you.
So,
Well,
oh, sorry. We're
oh
gonna.
no, I was just saying I'll miss doing this podcast with you guys, but like so we know each other in real life, so this isn't
Yeah.
goodbye
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Like we said, if you get some time, like obviously pop in as a guest. Like we're never gonna be like, no, you can't do this episode.
I'll come
So
in anyways.
I know.
I'm just
So,
gonna crash it.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like, Rebecca's here.
Hello, darling.
Yeah. So, I mean, in all honesty, no matter what happens, though, like this podcast is obviously going to evolve and change over time, especially as we continue to release episodes. But no matter what, we are going to do our best to make sure that the focus is getting the message out there, bringing awareness to mental health, and really just making sure that we are focused on providing like the best and most knowledgeable content for you guys out there. So, with that, this is actually going to be the last episode for our season. We are hoping to come back. What month is it? March, April, May, June.
I think we were thinking June
June-ish?
or
Yeah,
July.
June or
Somewhere.
July.
This
Yeah,
summer.
so yep. So summer we'll be back with another season, and that one will feature mostly just me and Bugby, and then kind of wherever Rebecca kind of feels like she has time to be able to fit in. So
Wherever I'm floating throughout the ether,
right. Yeah. And so, in all honesty, I think that will give us enough time to kind of refocus, recenter, and really just kind of figure out where we want to go from here. So it'll be good. I'm excited. And Bugby and I actually have the Twitch and YouTube streams going on. So if you guys haven't seen that lately, we have started a modded evil playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3.
Semi-evil. We're
Yeah,
not very good at being evil.
semi-evil, which is kind of hilarious because we were trying so hard to be evil, but we keep like getting torn between like the certain choices and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but
Yeah.
there have been some fun times already that we have picked the evil routes, and I'm just like, oh, I've never seen this before, because I
Yeah.
can't play a full evil playthrough on my own. I just can't. Like, oh, the heartbreak that will take place with Astarion just doesn't sit well with me, and I need emotional support, so I've never been able to do it by myself.
It's okay. I'm there. Kind of. And I
Oh,
apologize. I keep coughing so much, but hopefully I'm getting my microphone muted before I start coughing.
oh, you're
But
fine.
Thank you for struggling in silence, Bailey.
you're very welcome.
We appreciate you not letting the world know that you're struggling because,
Yeah,
you know.
as Rebecca said before, because I warned her, and she was like, "It's okay if you could just die in silence. That would be great." Like, got you.
Thank you.
I mean, in all fairness, that's pretty much what all of us do is we just die in silence.
Fair.
Thus is life.
And then preach against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
Do as I say, not as I do. I almost said do
Correct.
as I do, not as I say.
Do as I do, not as I say.
No,
Like,
no.
who's driving this bus? Why'd you pick me?
Not me.
Yeah. So with that though, I mean, this episode really is just going to be mostly a recap for you guys to really talk about some of the ways that this podcast has really helped us develop as people and kind of how we've developed in and of ourselves, like just having to produce this podcast. So overall, I think really the podcast just for me alone has brought a really positive thing to my life because not only did I start therapy, that was really my biggest struggle. And for me, I very much felt that if I was going to be encouraging people to do therapy, I needed to start doing therapy. I hate the whole like, okay, well, she's encouraging people to do therapy, but then doesn't do therapy herself. Red Rebecca. So,
I don't know what you're talking
but
about.
so for me personally, I really did not want to deal with that level of guilt. So for me, that was kind of my biggest achievement thanks to this podcast. Because on top of that too, it really allowed me to kind of be able to talk about some of the things that I've learned from my therapy and really just added to the content of the show. So it wasn't too crazy of a concept. It was just very hard to get into. And I'll be honest, like I feel like this podcast really gave me the push I needed in order to do it. So that one I am very thankful for. And I mean, really, I think the only other big change that I can say has been because of this podcast was being more open and honest about my mental health struggles. I feel like because I've gotten so used to talking about it with Bugby and Red Rebecca that it's been so much easier for me to admit things and really just open up and talk about what it is that I'm dealing with and really helping with the whole boundary setting side of my life, which I really struggled with before. It definitely has given me a whole new level of confidence to be able to take that on. So I think for those 2 to 3 things alone, I am definitely forever grateful for this podcast and what we've accomplished with it.
Yeah, I would say for me, and I'll see how long I can talk before I start coughing.
Just randomly starts dying.
Yeah, it's rough, guys. But anyway, for me, I would say the big changes are just being more open and honest about how I'm feeling and being comfortable with my feelings and my emotions and everything that goes along with that. Talking to Adela and Red Rebecca and some other friends, it's just not something that I would do normally in the past. And I realized that that's very important, that I don't internalize all of those feelings and emotions. And that is something that I am now very actively trying to teach my daughter, because she is a lot like me and she does internalize them and doesn't want to talk about them. And so we are working on that with her. We have been through some huge changes throughout this podcast. I will let everybody in on kind of the things that have happened. I haven't really said anything. It just is kind of private, but I will let everybody know that my husband and I have separated since the beginning of this podcast. Nothing against him. Everything is civil. We are working together to do anything and everything we can for our daughter to make it easier for her. But it is a very difficult time for all of us, and especially for her. So again, a season ending, so we have a little bit of time to kind of work through things is going to be really beneficial for me as well. Um, Additionally, I would say this podcast has brought me closer to some of my family members also, because they watch the podcast, and I think they maybe didn't realize all of the things I was feeling or struggling with, because I do internalize that stuff and I don't want to be a burden to anybody. That's just the nature of who I am, which I have come to realize is part of ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like full circle with this podcast, I tell you. But I feel like I've gotten closer to some family members as well, and that they have been able to understand me better, because of the podcast and because I've just been open with talking about it. My therapy journey from the beginning of this podcast has come to an end. Now it's not the end of my therapy, but I will be getting back in therapy. But my therapist is moving on to other things and she's no longer practicing. So I haven't been in therapy for, I think, since mid-January. So it's been a little over a month, maybe like a month and a half. And I've been okay. I could definitely tell some differences, but I will be getting back in therapy soon. I just need to find the right person to be in therapy with, and finally decide to start over with somebody new.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, but I think that's really the way the podcast has benefited me, throughout the last, I don't know, how long have we been doing this?
Oh
Since
sheesh.
almost a year.
It's been almost a year. Like we planned this concept of the podcast. I think it was last May actually, because we were coming back from the Ozarks when we were talking about it. So
Was it May or was it June?
probably, oh yeah, it was June because we were there for the concert.
Yeah, it
So
wasn't.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I think it was
last
June.
June. And yeah, I mean that was, yeah, that was a long time ago. And then I think it took us about 2 to 3 months to get everything that we needed for setup for studio, as well as like mics and all those things. And
So many trial episodes.
so many trial episodes, really just trying to narrow down the feel of everything correctly, topics, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it was, whoo, that was, yeah, it's been almost a year now since
Yeah.
we've had this podcast going. Granted, for everybody, it's been 10 weeks, but,
Yeah.
you know, for us, it's been much longer than that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's been a big change for sure. I mean, yeah, I can see the whole season ending thing like being very appropriate right now. But yeah, Red Rebecca, you want to give us your input?
Um, so yeah, this podcast has definitely made some changes in my life. One big thing that I've always struggled with is I'm quite the people pleaser, and I have a lot of trouble telling people no and setting boundaries. But I've since learned that it's only uncomfortable to say no in the moment, but it makes a world of difference afterwards
Mm-hmm.
when you finally
Mm-hmm.
get over that awkward, like, no, I don't think I want to. And I don't do it in a mean way. Like, I'm still very polite about the way I say no, but on the inside there's so much turmoil going on, like, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person for saying no. But then when I finally get to the moment where saying no has benefited me, realize this is what makes it all worth it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's okay to
Absolutely.
be selfish and say no if you need to. Because it was even getting to the point where I was getting so upset because I'm like, I can't even sit down and read my books because I can't tell people no, like, to hop online and play video games, or, go do this for a weekend or go do that. I'm like, uh, finally I'm able to say no, and it has made a world of difference. And I mean, and I still am friends with all these people. I still enjoy hanging out with all these people, but it's given me the strength to say no and set boundaries, especially now that life is getting so hectic. But then
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, I have also built a really strong support system for myself. And that's something that has really changed for me through the beginning of the podcast, is building such a strong support system. And I feel like I have like this strong chosen family within them, and I love it, and it's made me happy. So
Oh,
Yeah, that's
you
kind of where
make
I
me
was getting at
cry.
too with the, reaching out to people.
Yup.
yes,
So
Yup.
I get it. Building that support system that, you didn't even realize that you needed has been very beneficial, I think, for all of us.
yeah,
Oh
because
yeah.
I had just messaged them the other day, and I was like, guys, I'm sitting here at work, and I'm just overwhelmed with this need to like cry, and it's weird, and I just feel so happy.
Oh, that's sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, the support system overall has very much been a very big thing in my life too. And I've even started kind of distancing myself from people that I feel aren't really being a good level of support in my life. And
Yeah.
like don't get me wrong, I mean there's a lot of people in my life that are there for different reasons, you know. I
Hmm.
mean, I have friends at work, I have, you guys, and then I have like online friends and things like that, but there are certain people that I realized were in my life that just brought a very heavy negativity to me. And I
Hmm.
didn't ever really notice it up until we started talking about things on our podcast. And
Right.
I started realizing that a lot of the things that they would tell me almost sounds like they're trying to pitch it as they care for me. But at the end of it, all they did was really discourage me. All they did was kind of tear me down, but then they would guise it in the sense of, "Oh, I care for you. This is why I am telling you this." But
Right.
the problem is that the way that they're telling it to me isn't constructive. Like it's just meant to insult me. And like they would always wind up making it about them, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to see some serious red flags with you. Like it's you say you care, but then you wind up telling me only the negative side of things. You never give me the constructive side of things. You never tell me about, the way that either your opinion of it is and how I can help improve it. It's just, oh, you suck. And
Mm.
I'm sitting there going, nah, that's not okay. Like you are now starting to come across as a person that is trying to tear me down.
Right.
And I have worked so hard to build myself up that I've started noticing that in people so much more that have been in my life for so long,
Hmm.
that I've gotten to a point where I've started just distancing myself from them, because the reality is I don't need that in my life.
Right.
And if you are not a true support structure for me, I don't plan on really sticking around and being close to you, because I've worked so hard to clean up my mental headspace that suddenly you're just adding trash into it. It's almost like I throw out one piece of trash and then you just throw in five more,
Yeah.
and you just feel like the space can never get cleaned. And it's gotten to a point with me where I've started seeing that in certain people in my life, and I've gained a lot of confidence thanks to this podcast, thanks to you two. And really just knowing that I don't need this person, I don't need that person. And the truth is, if you can't come to me with constructive criticism that's meant to help and develop me, then at this point, you're just telling me what people think about me behind my back, or you're just telling me this to make me feel bad about myself. So I hold on to you, or something along those lines, and it just doesn't sit well with me. I don't need people like that in my life. I need people that are that are willing to tell me when I'm doing something wrong, but then also talk to me about it, try to get to the root of the problem, try to see what's going on and actually listen to what I have to say, not just sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, no, I totally understand. I get it, but you still don't want to do anything about it." It's just like, excuse me, like you don't know what's going on with my situation, you don't understand. Did you even bother to ask me like why this is even the way this is, um and so a big strong sense of community has been a big one for me too. I think really picking and choosing the people I keep close to my life is kind of what's been important. And it's been one of those things where it sucks when you first realize it because you feel like you're losing a friend. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, when I stopped and took a step back and looked at everything, I came to the realization I didn't really lose anything because they weren't being a true friend in the first place. And so a very big part of that has been building my community of people and support system and deciding where it is that they belong in my life, and it's not to say that I flat out just don't talk to these people anymore, and it's not to say that I don't like to, or I just disregarded them completely. I've realized where in my life that they keep them. They are not the
Right.
friend that I go to when I'm crying and upset and need support. They are not the friend that I go to when I just want to have a chill Saturday and hang out with them. They are the people that are good for a casual conversation, and that's about it. So I I've really learned to pick and choose and really stuck by my mentality of friends of quality and not quantity. And
Mhm.
so that has been a very big turning point for me too.
Yeah, I think choosing your circle essentially
Mhm.
is kind of what she's getting at there. You got to
Yep.
choose the people that you want in your circle, and everybody
Mhm.
else doesn't need to be in the circle.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's really important.
it is. And it's a very hard lesson to have to learn, to be honest, which I mean, I'm before everything, I was always that way. Like my mentality on that never changed when it came to friends of quality, not quantity. But the problem that I have, and it's really funny because a personal friend of mine actually pointed this out to me. And he said, "You are such a wonderful person." He goes, "You're amazing. You're a gem." He goes, "You have the kindest heart that I have ever seen from anybody, but you are too trusting." And he says, "You are the type of person that you give people the benefit of the doubt even when they don't deserve it." And he goes, which in turn, kind of causes you a bit of heartache. And he goes, it causes you some stress because you care. And he goes, that's not a bad thing. But he goes, you can be a little too trusting when you don't need to be. And when he said that to me, it was such a big eye opener for me because he's right. Like, and I've always known that about myself. I've always known I'm the kind of person that will give somebody the benefit of the doubt when they don't deserve it. And it does kind of cause me a lot of heartbreak sometimes, and it causes me to struggle with myself because I find that I'm making excuses for people as to why they're that way or why that situation happened. And I came to realize that's not my job. I shouldn't have to be making excuses for people. You should be proving to me that you want to be friends. You should be proving to me that you still want to be a part of my life, just the way in turn I should also be proving to you the same thing. Like friendship is a two-way street. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mhm.
when he told me that, I was like, yeah, okay, time to make some changes here. And I mean, I love that friend dearly. Like he is one of the most positive people in my life. Like literally every time you call him, it is just happy smiles and positivity. And no matter what he's got going on in his day, he is just willing to listen. And at the same time, I do also worry about him too, solely for the fact that, he can get burnt out just as easily, obviously knowing what it's like to be in his shoes. And but obviously like he has become one of my greatest support systems in my life right now, just because anytime I talk to him, like he's willing to listen and literally mind like a steel freaking trap. Like it is
Yes.
it is insanity. Like the guy will remember anything and everything that you tell him. It is amazing how he does it. But in all honesty, like just the overall support that he's brought to my life just by being a friend
Mm-hmm.
has been fantastic. And I think he's definitely been one of the biggest changes in my life in terms of just like my overall support system. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times, I don't even really expect him to do anything. Like, I just want to see how his day is going. I just want to, have a good chat with him. And half the time I'm calling him to make sure he's okay too. And overall, just those little moments will wind up turning into like a 3-hour phone conversation as I'm like trying to clean my house. It's just being able to spend time with a friend. And that's really what has been a good support system for me. It's just not having to think about things all the time, not really having to be the decision maker in every single step of the way. It's been a good relief, and
Hmm.
I've been enjoying it thoroughly. I mean, I really can't thank the community who have supported this podcast, like you two who have supported this podcast. And really just my friends, my family, my husband who has been very patient with this podcast, having to be the one to watch the kids while I'm up here recording or, something like that. It's been an amazing, overwhelming journey of support and really finding out who in our lives is really there for us. It kind of makes me want to cry.
Yeah, and it's wild too, because like the other week, Casey was my husband. For those who don't know, he was working the afternoon shift, so I would come home from work and I would get my kid, and then it was like everything was kind of on my shoulders. And after a week, it gets kind of lonely. And
Hmm.
so my friend was just like, "Well, what do you need?" And I was like, "I don't know, I'm just kind of lonely." And she said, "Well, call me. We'll cook dinner together." And so that's what we did, and it was just it's like having people like that, it just makes such a difference, I think, in your life and in your mental health.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, the biggest overall support structure of this podcast has been Kuma. Like, we can't, I cannot deny or ignore that fact in any way, shape, or form, because not only did he put in a ton of work and just overall research, and is the one that takes time to edit the videos and
Hmm.
uploads them, and does everything behind the scenes. Like, for him, it's a very thankless job most of the time, because he's not seen unless really talked about on the podcast or things like that. But overall, he has been one of the biggest supporters of this, because the amount of time that he has to put into this podcast actually tends to be a lot larger than what the three of us had to do. And
Hmm.
so overall, if there's anybody that's really been given a big support system in this too, it has definitely been him. And so overall, big thank you to Kuma for everything he did to bring the podcast just up to season 1 and
Yes,
just
thank you.
make all of this happen. It was huge, and without that kind of level of support, this podcast never would have happened. Rebecca, Bailey, and I could sit here and talk all day, but when you don't have the people behind you pushing you forward, it's a lot. And it can definitely fail when you don't have that level of foundation. And Kuma was the ultimate level of foundation for this podcast. So he is a huge part of this just as much as we are. So big thanks, bruv.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you. Thank you.
Kuma. We love
So
you.
yes, we do. But other than that, I think the other really big thing with everything that's been going on has been also my ability to handle things at work. I mean, as we all know, we had a episode of working for Vincent, Marco, and Emily, and that has been like, looking back on that episode now to where I'm at, so many things have changed. It's kind of funny to think about, because for a while there I was really struggling with things at work, just mentally, because it was so high stress, so fast paced, and it just feels like you can never get your head above water. And now I feel like I've kind of gotten back to the point where things have kind of calmed down. I feel like I'm starting to get my feet on the ground again, and it's been good, and I think having gone through that struggle at work, especially during one of the most challenging times of my life, just being in a very not healthy mental state at the time, was probably one of the things that I am the most proud of, having gone through this podcast journey. Because I not only was I dealing with really dark mental health struggles, I was then having to still function like an adult. And then since I am the department head of the marketing team, all of their, stress and weight and everything was on me too. And it was a lot to have to take on during one time. And really looking back on a lot of that now, to be honest, if it wasn't for this podcast and times that we took to just sit there and talk about our struggles and how we were feeling on certain topics, I don't really know if I would have made that through, or I don't think I would have made it through that as strongly as I did, because during the journey of the podcast, I set a lot of boundaries. I distanced myself from people that I felt weren't helping the situation. I clung on to those that gave me strong support, like you two and my brother and my husband and our other friend that we just talked about. And I really just buried myself in the positivity in life, which granted, not easy to do. It was super hard to have to do, but I did it. And it's one of those things I look back on and I'm like, I'm proud I did it. I officially feel like the phoenix that rose from the ashes. It's which, funny enough, appropriate shirt apparently. Totally was not intended. I just kind of put two and two together on my head. If so, for those of you not on the YouTube video, I am wearing a From Ashes to New t-shirt, which ironic just for what I was talking about. So I thought that was kind of hilarious. But yeah, I definitely feel like I am relating to my tattoo once again, where I was made from the heartache. I feel like it just all kind of fell into place after I made it through, and not easy, but you got there, and that's really the best that you can hope for. And I think the three of us can agree that this podcast is meant to kind of help bring that purpose into your life, to encourage
Mhm.
you to do different things, to try something you've never tried before, to build a sense of community and support that will further your mental health, not degrade it, and really just overall find the people in your life that are worthy of being there. I've said that
Mhm.
in multiple episodes, and I don't think that I can emphasize that point enough, because as you heard from all three of us, that was one of the biggest common factors in our life, was we decided who was going to be part of our lives.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised how big of a change that makes.
Mhm. Makes a
It
huge
makes
change.
a very big change
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when you get rid of negativity and surround yourself with positivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best things I ever did.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. And in all honesty, guys, if there's anything that you can take away from season 1 as we kind of wrap up this episode, it's, pick and choose who you want in your life. And it's so hard to walk away from people. And it's so hard to, like Red Rebecca often says, she struggles with, it's hard to say no. And it's one of those things where that guilt that you feel in the moment, it's exactly like she said, it's not going to last. It will basically work itself out. And
Mhm.
you have to realize that you don't owe anybody anything. You don't there should be no expectations on what it is that you do with your time. There should be no expectations on what you should do for other people. Any kind of help that you give is a privilege to your friends, to your family, and even to just yourself. It's something that you are privileged enough to be able to do for the people in your life, and you really need to focus on what is going to be best for you. Granted, don't get me wrong, there are certain people in your life that, yes, it's okay to go out of your way for them because they deserve that. I mean, there's very few people, and it's a very short list of people in my life that I will drive somewhere at 2 a.m. and go pick their butts up from somewhere if they call me, at that hour. But at the end of the day, I also have that list of people that I'm like, no, your drama is not going to become my drama, and your problems are not my problems. And I know that sounds so harsh because it's such a cruel world out there, and you think that, oh, hey, maybe I should be the better person. Yes, true, be the better person, but I guess the best way I can put it is offer the help you can afford to give. The very first thing I said when we launched this podcast, you cannot fill on an empty cup, and that remains true to this day. If you have nothing left to give, if you can't even help yourself, if you don't have the mental fortitude to be able to do it, you're not going to be much help to anybody else around you, and you're only going to cause yourself trouble. So just remember always that you need to take care of you first before you can take care of anybody else. And if there's anything that I want to make sure that you guys walk away with at the end of the season, it is just to remind yourselves that no matter what happens, it's okay to be a little selfish. It's okay to take time for you. And it is okay to pick and choose the people that are going to be affecting your life, because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's exactly what they're going to be doing, is affecting your life. And you have to decide who is going to be worth that pain. So hopefully this podcast with this first season has brought out a new side of encouragement for you, and really hopefully you guys have made some changes in your life that you can be proud of. And when we come back next season with I don't want to say vengeance, but with a renewed passion, I think I look forward to kind of hearing how any of you have changed from season 1 to where we kick off in season 2. I think Bugby and I will also have some very interesting stories to share, and I'm sure Red Rebecca, whenever she has a chance to come on the show, will also have some very interesting life stories to share.
I hope so. Good one.
I'm pretty sure you will, considering what you've got coming up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to freak out about it too much.
Yeah, somebody still needs to go shopping.
Yes.
Yeah. Good luck. Okay. Well, with that, guys, we are probably going to end this episode unless Bugby or Red Rebecca have any parting words for the end of the season.
So long, farewell.
I was gonna say all I've got to say is, Rebecca, I've absolutely loved having you on this podcast, and I know we are still gonna talk, of course, because that's just who we are.
Yes, especially books and Astarion and all that.
Books and Astarion and ADHD, random giggles when you're trying to carry a rug.
You forgot Rysand. I can't believe you two forgot Rysand. Like, what? Really?
I mean, he's within the books. Falls within the book category.
I'm sorry, but I'm a Cassian girly now.
I'm an Azrael girly.
he can fly away. It's fine.
Wow. Okay. All right. We just shifting shadow daddies over here.
Yeah, our D&D campaign, I might have to switch to Cassian, but it'll depend on how far Kuma is on that development. We'll see.
I knew you were going to be a Cassian girly too.
I love him so much.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that I don't even remember what I was going to say. I love you, Rebecca. And I look forward to having you on every once in a while, whenever, or back permanently, whenever. But I'm happy for everything that you're doing, and I am also very proud of you for understanding that you needed some time to step away, and then taking that. That is a big thing in the whole principle of the podcast. So I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you.
And definitely not easy to do. So that also needs to be very recognized. But
yeah. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, with that, always remember,
you are always loved.
You are never alone.
And this is just us being us.